Welcome back to the new video. This time we're going to continue talking about Meraki network access, and this video is the continuation to Meraki Wi-Fi network access. This is part 2. We're going to make it a 3-part video to go over the different type of association types for Meraki Wi-Fi. So on this video we're going to be talking specifically about the enterprise with option and the different connections, the different ways that you could use enterprise solutions to authenticate to the Meraki network, and in this case specifically talking about Meraki Wi-Fi. So when you go to wireless, the SSIDs, you edit the SSIDs, you go to the network access tab, as you can see here under the access control. You are going to see enterprise with, right? And let's go over the first option that I want to talk about today, and that's going to be my radius server. And for this solution to function, you do need to have a working radius server in your environment. In this case, for testing purposes, we have a Windows NPS server that we're using as a radius server, and but you could use Cisco ICE if you have that, or I believe you could use Open Radius. I've never tested it with it. In every deployment we've had, we always have NPS for this. So once you have the configuration ready for you on the NPS side, you would come here. As you could see, if I change this to, for instance, any other type of network access, the radius option is going to be gone, right? So I'm going to go back here. Not this one, actually this. Make sure that I have my radius, and once you select that option, you would scroll down to the radius server section and add your radius server or servers. Make sure that you have the proper configuration, that there's communication. Every time that I do this for the first time, that I'm setting up a connection between Meraki and a radius server, I make sure that I test. Like that's gonna save me a lot of headaches as of why things aren't working if they don't work. But in this case, if I do my test, you're gonna see that my test passed, which means that the Meraki configuration can communicate with the radius server and test the user credentials that I'm using for testing purposes. So once you do that, as I mentioned to you before, you need to have a radius configuration in place for this to work. In this case, I already have that configuration. In another video, we went over doing a basic configuration of Microsoft NPS with Meraki, so you can reference that video. But in this case, we're going to be testing a user that belongs to the marketing group, right? I have here my test ID, and I have this user wireless 1. If I go to members, you'll see that I have a marketing group right here, wireless marketing, which is the same groups that I have here on my radius server. Now, if I go to conditions, as you could see here, my Windows group is wireless marketing, which means that when a user connects to that network, and based on this condition, the user belongs to the marketing group, that user is going to get a certain set of settings that have been pre-configured before and access. So this is super useful. We always recommend companies to utilize radius for authentication So besides improving security, that's also going to help the overall wireless performance, because they're not going to broadcast that many SSIDs that are going to control traffic through radius mapping. So let me show you how it works. So once I have that configuration, as you could see here, that is super simple. Obviously, once you have everything configured properly, I'm gonna go to my client. So I'm gonna come over here to my computer. Right, let me bring this over to you, and you are gonna see that I have my one of my laptops here, and I have the Office Employees SSID, and I'm gonna connect. And I'm connected because I tested this before. So let me forget this. Let me go back. And by the way, the employee's ID is the one that we have configured for radius, right? So let me come back here. Office employees, that's what I meant. So that's gonna prompt me for the username and password. So I'm gonna type in the Active Directory username and password. So that's gonna be wireless1, and the password that I used for that account. I'm gonna click on connect, and I am connected. So as you could see, it's a pretty simple configuration once you have everything configured properly, of course. But it's super useful because you can manage the traffic to your network over the Wi-Fi based on policies that you create on your NPS. And you can create your policies and assign VLANs and different type of access to it. So that's what you would do with Meraki Enterprise with my radius. So let's say that you don't have a radius server, you are a small shop, or you are a business and don't have any interest in having a radius server because that requires configuration. So in that case, Meraki has made it easy. For that type of situations, you can choose Meraki Cloud authentication for that. So let me go to another SSID. In this case, I have an SSID named Meraki Cloud, and the type of network access that I'm going to be using is Enterprise with Meraki Cloud authentication. So in that case, you're going to create a user account or user accounts and allow them to connect to your SSIDs, and the user accounts are going to reside in the Meraki Cloud, so you wouldn't need any infrastructure for that. So as soon as you select Enterprise with Meraki Cloud authentication, you'll have this option, manage the user list authorized for these SSIDs, so which is pretty much just the users. You have to create user accounts based on email addresses. So you can just click here. Let me open in a new tab, and as you can see, that's going to take you to the user management portal. Make sure that you are on the correct zone. In this case, we want to do it on the warehouse 1, or we want to do it on the Meraki Cloud SSID. As you can see here, you're going to have the SSIDs. You can configure that Meraki Cloud user to log into, or you can also do it for VPNs, but that's going to be for other videos. So let's select the SSID that we want to work with. That's going to be Meraki Cloud. And as you can see here, I have 2 user accounts that I have created previously. And what you can do is add a new user. You type in the description whatever you want to type. That's going to be Meraki Cloud SSID or Meraki Cloud Access. Makes more sense. SSID Meraki Cloud. I mean, it's just a description, whatever you want. On the username, you're going to type whatever email address you want to have for that user. So we can type, I'm going to select this other user here. And then the password, I'm going to assign whatever password I want to it. Or you can click on generate. So as you could see, if you keep clicking, that's going to keep changing the password. And you'll have the option of letting the system email the credentials to that account or the password in that case. But something that you have to keep in mind is that this is just the user creation. If you want to grant access, in this case to the Meraki Cloud SSID, you have to say yes, right? And then that's going to give you the option of selecting for how long. Does it expire? Does it not? It's up to you. So I'm just going to do this for testing purposes. Right, so I'm gonna create my user. Make sure that you save your changes, and once that is saved, I'm gonna come over to my computer down here, my testing laptop, and I'm going to disconnect from my previous SSID. And I am going to connect to okay, where is that SSID? It happens when you have so many Wi-Fi networks around you. So I'm gonna select Meraki Cloud, connect. Okay, I have my VPN. I'm gonna say no, don't protect. This is for testing purposes. So let me disconnect. I've been doing testing and that saved my credentials. So let me go back to it one more time. And you type in that username and password that you created here in the user management portal, right? So I'm gonna type in an email. I'm gonna type in the password, and I'm gonna connect. And it may be that the system hasn't synchronized yet, but I'm gonna use the other account that I used before for testing purposes, so I don't delay this video. So it's gonna be info and I'm not connecting again. So let me come back here. I just want to make sure that these users are authorized, as you can see here. So what is going on? The only logical explanation for that is that I am mistyping the password. So I'm just gonna come here and reset the password. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna use password. Oh, I know what it is. I was using password this. So let me go back. Well, let me change this. So you can see how to update a user account and save. So for this user, I was using the wrong password. So let me go back to my settings. So let me find my Meraki Cloud SSID. Here it is. It's like notifications. As you could see, I'm getting the notifications from Meraki that the password has been changed. So Meraki Cloud, let me do this. So this is the password. Connect. And I am connected. So as you could see, this is how you would implement the different type of Meraki access control options. This is using Meraki Cloud, and we went over the Radius server before. There's one more option that is local authentication. We have not implemented that yet, and it requires more configuration because you would have to go to you would need a Radius server, but the way it's gonna work is that in the event that the Radius server is not reachable for any reason, the Meraki access point acting as the client is also going to be able to authenticate that request that has connected before, because the credentials are going to be cached. So it is a little bit more advanced and complex than the other two. We have not had the need to implement that yet, but if we come across a project like that, we'll create a video for that and explaining to you the reasons why. So I'm not going to be talking about this because we have not implemented it yet, but it's useful. I've read the documentation, and it's something that has a place in large enterprises and certain configurations. So that is your Meraki network access configuration. One more thing that I want to mention before I end this video is that this is just for the network access, association, and authentication that you're going to be doing to the Wi-Fi. But then you'll have these other options where you can customize even more the network that you are working with. Do you want to set up a splash page, a click-through, a sponsor login, so on and so forth? And then you can also configure the different type of addressing and traffic. Are you going to be using NAT? Are you going to be using bridge mode, layer 3 roaming, or layer 3 roaming with a concentrator, so on and so forth? And you can even go even more advanced into it. If you're using for instance Radius, you can come down here and select the SSIDs that you want to assign to it, to that connection. You can do that from here, and you can also create group policy objects if you want, or group policies. I'm not even sure if Meraki calls them group policy objects. But you can create policies for device types, and if a device has a signature of a Mac or an iPad or phone or anything else, you can apply a policy that is going to be assigned to that device when it connects. So we'll be creating more videos for that, so you can see how Meraki allows you to configure your and tailor your network to the way you want it, with all the options you offer. And lastly, again, these principles are Meraki based, because I'm using Meraki in this case as an example. But if you use Aruba, or if you use these other vendors, Extreme Networks, or any of the other enterprise grade solutions, they do have similar solutions to this. It's just a matter of applying these principles to the configurations they have. So on the next video, we're gonna wrap it up with Identity PSK with Radius and Identity PSK without Radius, and that'll do it for network access on the Meraki console. I hope it helps. Have a great day.